Hi, I'm here with Steve Giordano, founder of Train, Win, Repeat Executive Leadership. And we have a few questions for him. So Steve, what made you decide to do this kind of work?
You know, Bob, when I had my last CEO job, and it was with a company that was a few weeks away from Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and I thought that by my team building experience and my leadership experience, I could turn that thing around, and didn't know how much time we'd have, and as it turned out, we only had 6 months to do it, and it didn't work. And I found myself thinking about that experience and thinking about, frankly, my entire career. And I thought about the industry I was in and the product that I represented. And it wasn't so much that the industry or the product was what I loved. It was working with the managers and coaching them into leadership. And since I had the opportunity to take some time off and think about what I wanted to do, I made a list. And the thing I wanted to do most was coach middle managers so that they could get to be presidents and CEOs from any level in the organization, as I did.
You mentioned in the video that you've held many jobs. Has that helped you or hurt you?
You know, I think in my case, it helped me because I'm a slow learner. And while I was reading all of the books about management and management by objectives and all of the terms that I would later put together to form my leadership strategy, I had to do it in each and every job. It's just the way I learn. And if I held a job and exercised all of the lessons in that job and then went to the next one and did that, that's the best way for me to learn. I don't think it's necessary for everybody, but it was necessary for me, and I think it did help me. So I think that business today is more fast-paced, and I think the best thing about having every job is that you can understand where everybody comes from. I know what it's like to be a truck driver because I was one. I know what it's like to drive a lift truck because I spent many years driving a lift truck. But I think today's leader can be in touch and visit and talk and communicate with people at all levels of the organization. And if they're in touch and they show up, as I talk about on the video, I don't think you have to go through every position. You just have to listen to the real people who do the real work.
So your video and your book explores the 8 steps to becoming a dynamic, sought-after leader. Is there one more step that's more important than the others?
You know, it's I tried very hard to include all of the things that I thought were necessary, and I imagined somebody not having one or two of them, and could they get all of the jobs that I think are necessary so that one proves themselves, so they're getting offers of next jobs. And I really feel comfortable that all 8 are there, but since you ask, I think execution is the most important one. I think that that is something that most leaders are missing. That they can talk the talk and they have good slogans and they have great mission statements, and then when it comes to where the rubber meets the road, they don't execute. And so that if you look at it over a period of time of 12 data points, it didn't really get any better. And execution, I think, is the key, and that's why I spent a lot of time on it in the book and the video.
So are these steps groundbreaking? What sets them apart from all the other coaching books that are out there today?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Everybody thinks that knowledge is the key. If we only knew what to do, and that I find is not the key. You know, you take a fabulous writer like Charles Dickens, and he didn't invent the words. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It's what he did with those words. It's how he put them together that gave them meaning. You don't have to invent the concepts to give them the shape that makes it work. And I think execution, to the point of the book, is not that any of these things that I'm talking about that others before me have talked about are groundbreaking. It's just how you do them and your motivation behind doing them that I think sets it apart.
Why do most managers, in your experience, fail?
I think the number one impediment to growth in leadership is an absence of candor. Managers, like most humans, want to be liked, and some people can only confront performance, which after all is necessary in behavior modification. They can only do it once they're angry enough to do it. And when they do it, it's not productive, it's not constructive, it's sometimes negative. And so you have that or none at all. And you cannot get great performance if you're not candid with people, if you're not upfront with them, if you don't tell them exactly what you expect from them and exactly how you think they're performing. And I noticed a surprising number of managers, for whatever reason, refuse to do that.
You talk about individuals who, like businesses, need to have a core competency, something that differentiates them from their competition. What do you think is your core competency that differentiates you?
Like most things in my career, I stumbled on a core competency that I didn't know was a core competency until I saw that most of the people around me didn't have it. I saw that there were some people who were really good communicators and could get their message across and could inspire people and in some cases motivate people, but they didn't really have the detail orientation to go through the numbers and go through the data and read complex income statements and balance sheets and all of that. And then I found people who were great at the detail, who were financial mavens, who really understood the cash flow part of the business and the income statement part of the business and had an amazing capacity for going through that detail, who weren't so good with people and weren't so good as a communicator. I think if there is a difference that I've brought to my style that's helped me over the years, it's in bridging those two together. I'm very good with detail, and I'm a very good communicator. And the number of people that can do both are, in my experience, not a wide group.
What do you like to see in students before deciding to coach them?
As I talk about in the video and in the book, it's most important to me that the student has a why that's going to be powerful enough to help them make all the adjustments that are necessary. Because none of the things I talk about are hard to understand, but they're all difficult to execute and take lots of adaptation. And you're not going to have the wherewithal and the stamina to do it unless your why, your reason for wanting to become a better leader, is powerful enough. So I want their motivation first. And if I've got their motivation, I can make anybody a CEO.
What is your biggest frustration about this business?
In the coaching business, I have been a student, as all coaches should be, and I noticed that all the seminars I go to and all the classroom studies where I'm anxious to learn the latest thing, there are two groups of people. One who absolutely writes down everything, takes copious notes, is so engaged in everything the speaker is saying, and they walk away with absolutely implementable things to do. And those are the people who need it the least. The people who need it the most tend not to listen as well, tend not to take the notes, tend not to take action on the notes they took, and it really is confounding to me, since it seems like it ought to be the other way around.
What is your biggest change since leaving the traditional business world to pursue this new passion of yours?
I think the biggest change is I had a strategy when I was running companies that was focused on the end. And now I'm really attempting to focus on my student, whoever you are. And everything that I write and everything I present, I'm imagining how they can use that, how they can integrate that today to get traction from it, to get mileage from it so they can help them today. And while I was always focused on other people, now I'm hyper-focused on other people as they will assimilate my message and do something with it. So that's my entire focus with everything I learn, channeling it in that way. That's the biggest change, I think.
You chose train, win, and repeat. Do you feel like you've trained and won?
I don't think it's a static concept. If the repeat is there because we've all won and we've all lost, and it's the wins I like to repeat. And so we learn from the losses, and I've had lots of both. And when you stumble on something where you get together with a group of people and success comes out of it and it feels great, that's what you want to repeat. And I've been very lucky to be associated with very talented teams where we have had a lot of wins, and those are the characteristics and the key steps that I want to repeat and that I've put together in my 8 steps so that they are more likely to be repeated.
So who is your target audience?
Gosh, a middle manager who is not appreciated, who would like to have a bigger job, have more responsibility, maybe want to be a president or a CEO or a chief operating officer or something higher than they are, and they just don't know how to go about it. All of the books that I read, and I've read many, many management books, talk about it from such a high level or a real low level. I've never seen a book that does it the way that I do it because I've actually had all those positions.
So, do you have any regrets about your path thus far or your career in the business world?
You know, Bob, my philosophy is to intellectually reject the premise that one should have regrets because you can't get to where you are without having made all the mistakes that I've made and all the steps that some could say were ill-advised or not the best steps. But I'm proud of all of them because you can't get there. But I don't evaluate the actual move. Was it a good move? Was it a bad move? I just make the best of it. What I do evaluate is my frame of mind when I was there. Was I in the right place? Was I evaluating it in the right way? And to me, that's more important. If I have regrets, it's was I acting with complete objectivity at that time? And so it's the state I tend to look at rather than the actual decision, if that makes sense.